Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is Chad here with another In the OT podcast for BetUpSportsBlog.com. Last night, a little bit of a scene occurred with the Washington Nationals and Chicago Cubs, where there were two bench-clearing situations. I wouldn't go so far as saying any of them were brawls, more like a melee, because there was never really any huge physical altercations. The first time occurred in the bottom of the fifth inning when it was 7-2 for the Nationals, and after a 3-0 count, Jason Worth decided to swing at a pitch which did not sit well with Cubs catcher Steve Clevenger. He went over to the bench to change his glove. It looked like he was bitching and complaining. We found out later after the fact that the entire Cubs team was a little bit offended by this, thinking that with the blowout and the Nationals absolutely thumping them, that there was no need to get aggressive and they should have been taking pitches until the first strike was taken. Confrontation then occurred between the manager of the Cubs, Dale Svaim, and the bench coach for the Nationals, Porter. From there, they sort of all came out and interacted with each other, then went back to their benches. Well, what do you know? The very next batter, Bryce Harper, got thrown at inside from Lendy Castillo. He gave him sort of a goofy look after, attempted to go at him, and then all of a sudden the benches decide to clear once again. So there was some big-time action here. And once again, in the middle of all this is the Cubs catcher, Steve Clevenger, who I think is an absolute punk. He decided to shove Michael Morse in that melee. He was the person that had the delay of the game earlier with his glove, and he seems like a little bit of a shithead and can't handle the fact that his team is losing and has zero control over his own emotions. And I understand that there's these codes in baseball of when you're supposed to swing and when you're not, and embarrassing teams and margins of victories. You can go on and on and on about all these sympathetic ways teams are supposed to win games. But at the end of the day here, the Chicago Cubs have only themselves to blame. Maybe if they weren't so pathetic and losing by that wide range of a margin, then they wouldn't have to be so concerned about Washington trying to score a few more runs and blow them out. So pitch better or score more runs if you don't like it. And furthermore, there's no guarantee with the 5-run lead with 4 innings left in a baseball game that you're going to win. We have seen multiple comebacks throughout the year, and you should never take any victory for granted. Now, I understand from the Cubs' perspective, they don't usually expect to come back in these spots because they do have one of the worst records in the majors, but that doesn't mean that the Nationals are supposed to take them lightly. They should be able to pour it on whenever they want, and if they see fit to swing at a 3-0 pitch with the bases loaded and 2 outs, then that is the way it's going to be. Too bad, suck it up, have control over your emotions, Chicago Cubs, and don't be such a pathetic franchise if you can't handle these situations occurring. They pretty much wanted to try to get some sort of form of retribution here by starting a little bit of a physical altercation, seeing if they could throw Washington players off their game, get a couple of them suspended, because these games mean a whole lot more to them as they are jockeying for playoff position, trying to win their division and get the highest seed possible in the National League. So I put all the blame on the Chicago Cubs. Just another embarrassing moment for this embarrassing franchise and yet another embarrassing season. Chad here in the OT podcast, BetUpSportsBlog.com, breaking down what occurred at the Nats ballpark last night as they once again thumped the Cubs 9-2, and the Cubs' only form of, shall we say, satisfaction is trying to pick a fight with their opponents on the field because they can't beat them at the actual game they are playing.